enabled, so I do keep my eye on the Q&A. So if you have a question as we're going along, please feel free to drop it in the Q&A, and I can answer those questions, and Rich can also feed those over to me if I miss them. So our workshop today, we will be working with the Siser Juliet, as well as the software, the Leonardo software. Our main project today is using felt and creating this nice little utensil holder. Now you can make this out of fabric, you can make this out of paper. I chose felt because it's a little bit sturdier, and I thought it would be fun to have these for years to come during the holiday season. It's always fun to have decorations that you bring out every year, especially if it has, you customize it with a name or something like that. And then it's a fun little something that you bring out every year. So we're going to work with that, and that's cutting out the felt. And then we're going to go over how to embellish other table items using vinyl and really go into some more detail with the vinyl. So we'll get started in the Leonardo software and designing our pumpkins to get started with. And then for this project, since I am using the felt, I do need to switch to my blue blade. And if you haven't done that, I'll show you how to do that, and we'll walk through that. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get started right into our Leonardo software. So if you have your Leonardo software and you want to open it up, please do so. Go ahead and do your login. And then on the left side here is my navigation bar between the canvas and the library and my cutter, and all the goodies and information is right here. So I started off in the design library, and I did a quick search using the keyword pumpkin. Now you can import your own images, or you can use the images that are available to you. I thought these little pumpkin faces were really cute, and I wanted to pull those out to put those on the pumpkins themselves. Gives them a little personality. You don't have to do that if you would prefer not to. But we're going to go ahead and apply those to our canvas here. I have another project I guess I was working on. We get a new fresh one here. And we'll go into the design library again. I'm going to grab those faces and add those to my design. And then I'm going to go back to the library and add some pumpkin shapes onto the design. So you can see there's lots of different pumpkin shapes. There's some that are just a plain one, some that have, the nice little stem with it, and some dimension to it. I'm not really looking for something that has a lot of dimension because because I'm cutting it out of felt. I wanted it to just be kind of a flat design. So I thought this pumpkin here, this fourth one in, would be a good one to start with. So I'll just go ahead and open that design. Now you'll notice that the images say that you can use the images that are in the design library. When you click on one, you'll notice that it will say that this is available for all license types. So that means if you are making something using that pumpkin and you want to sell that item, you have the license rights to use that item. So what we're going to do is reduce the size of our pumpkin faces here. Now, my actual felt, let me come back, let me stop share real quick. And my actual felt piece here, I put my silverware down to see how tall I need it and how wide I need it to be. And let me grab my ruler, I'll give you my dimensions. So it's 4 inches wide by 7 inches tall. I just cut this with my rotary cutter. I didn't cut the rectangle pieces. Actually, that's not true. I did, because I put the holes on the side to spread my needle through. So I'll go over how to do that. But my overall size was 7 by 4, and then it's a little pocket here. So my pocket is 4 inches tall. So that's just a square right there. Okay. So let me come back in here. We'll share my screen again. Okay, So for the to create your stacked pumpkins, we're just going to take our first pumpkin. Now you'll notice that it has the stem and that little darker color orange there. I can move these all around the pumpkin and resize it all together because all of those layers are grouped together. If you use your mouse and you right click on that image, I can select ungroup. And now when I click on each individual piece, it should be each piece is an individual item. So now just the top of it is a piece, the darker colors are a piece, and the pumpkin itself is a piece. So you can, see how you can separate those all and change out those different pieces. So for what I was doing, for the bottom two pumpkins, I don't really need the stem. And none of the pumpkins did I use the darker veins here. So I'm just going to delete that layer and I'll leave myself with the stem and then the pumpkin. So if I select both of those items, both layers there, and I'm going to do on my keyboard a control copy, a control C on a PC. I think a Mac, it's the Apple icon and C, and then a paste. So a control C and a control V, and that gives me one pumpkin, and I'll do another one, and that gives me 3 pumpkins. Now for my bottom pumpkins, I don't need the stem, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the stem on 2 of these, like so. My bottom pumpkin will be my biggest pumpkin, and then I'm going to stack the other pumpkins on top of that bigger pumpkin. So we're just going to go ahead and change the color of our middle pumpkin to be just a different, you can go to a yellow color. So on the properties icon, I'm just going to slide that down into yellow and go to a yellow pumpkin. For this pumpkin, we're just going to make it a little smaller. So I'll grab one of those little corner pieces, and then we can rotate that pumpkin using the middle, see that little bar above the center and how the arrow curves? It's kind of hard to see, but that's my tilting tool right there. So I can resize and tilt right on that image itself. Then for our smaller pumpkin, I'm going to group that back together so the stem stays with the pumpkin. So I'll select the stem and the pumpkin. I'll right click on it and I'll say group. And now once again, I can move those around together, and we're just going to make that a little smaller pumpkin. So that's how my little pumpkin stack would stack up, if you will. And if you want to put one pumpkin in front of the other, you can just right click on it and come down to the orders and bring that to the front. So if I wanted to bring all of these to the front, I just go to order and bring to the front. And this is how my pumpkin stack is going to stack up. If you wanted to make a pumpkin shorter, you can always squish it down a little bit, spread it out, anything like that. I just resized it and didn't change it that way. But again, it's your pumpkin, so if you want to make it tall and skinny, certainly you can do that. Then we have the faces that we want to bring over to the pumpkins and place a face on each pumpkin. But again, when I move those over, you can see that the layers are grouped together. So I just need to select the ungroup so that I can select a face at a time. Ungroup again. And then I have this little face here. We'll group that back together. We'll come over here and we'll select all those pieces and group them together. And I'm just selecting all the pieces by drawing a box around the pieces, right-clicking and selecting group. Now, when I bring that back over here, I can resize that pumpkin face so it will fit onto my large pumpkin down on the bottom. So I can bring that down here, and it's a little big, so again, I can just resize it using the corner and bringing that down a little bit like that. So go a little bit like that. Okay, and then I'll grab this pumpkin guy, this pumpkin face, and we'll bring him onto my pumpkin. Bring that that to the front. And this little pumpkin here, and bring this guy to the front. So anytime you're working in one of the your digital cutter software programs, just think of each piece as a layer, like it's stacking one layer on top of the other. And that's how it will all come together if you, as they're stacked on top of each other. So now that I have my design laid out how I want, what I did with my holder, instead of cutting out the black face of each pumpkin, I actually cut the pumpkin face out of the pumpkin itself and then used this gray backing as the backing that would show through as the pumpkin face. So let me show you how I did that. I'll go back in here, and if there are any questions as I'm moving along, please do pop them in. This is being recorded, so if there's any step you might miss or want to go back and follow through, and you can certainly do that. Okay, so let's bring these together. I'm going to show you one other quick trick. If you see my pumpkin faces here, let's see if I can zoom this in a little bit for you. If you see inside the pumpkin face, that little line there. Oh, am I sharing my screen?
No.
Oh, am I? Or no?
No, you're not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if you wanted to eliminate those little lines there when you're cutting, you can go to paths and weld all the paths together. I'm sorry, I'm going to go to paths. Mine probably see paths. Ungroup the paths, and then you have to go into each little one. And let me grab this guy. Just go really big here so you can see what I'm talking about. See that little curve there? If I didn't want to have to cut that out, I want to combine that all together. Let's see, it may not make a difference on this one. I'm going to set him aside for 1 second and we'll come back to that, because I may just be able to cut the different pieces out of the larger pumpkin, and those little divots there may not make a difference. So I'm going to group those together, and I'll select the pumpkin itself and select the face. To select 2 layers, you just hold the shift key down and select the layers. Then I'm going to come down to this double square icon, and what I want to do is remove the front image from the back image. So that's the little solid square and the hollow square. When I select those, there's my pumpkin right there. And now I have that to cut out. Now, if I want to eliminate those smaller little lines there, that's where you have to go to, I believe it's paths. I'm going to ungroup the paths. Should let me ungroup it so that, oh, I may not be on my right icon here. Let me do that. I'm forgetting how to do this. It's so simple. You know, when something's so simple and you forget how to do it. Let's erase those. Maybe too big. Okay. Well, I'm just going to leave those there for right now. I'll come back to that. I apologize. I'm misremembering how to bring it all, how to take those little slits out. But we're going to go ahead and cut that through, and then we'll come on to this one and cut that through. And then what we'll be left with is 3 different pumpkins that they'll cut individually, so that they're not glued together. They'll cut individually. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. I can ungroup it and delete them. Let's do that. Okay, that worked. Let me ungroup this guy. Let's see. Oh, worked. There we go. All right, so I've got those out of the way. Let me delete those out of the way. Grab this guy. We'll move him, ungroup. Ungroup the paths. That should let me move them around. Oh. Worked on one and not the other. All right, guys, sorry about this. That'll do it. Oh, there we go. I'm just going to keep doing it that way then and see if we can get rid of all those little pieces. That's not that big a deal. The reason I want to get rid of those is I don't want them to get bunched up in my cutter with those, because they're so tiny there. So I really do want to get those out of there and be able to just get rid of those. Delete, delete, and delete. So we'll go back up to this yellow one, say paths, ungroup paths, and that should let me just go in there and delete those little pieces out. This way they don't get caught in my blade. Okay. So now once you have that done, the last part you need to set up to cut are your rectangles and your square. So we'll do a rectangle that is 7 inches by 4 inches. And to do that, we're just going to draw a shape, put any shape that you want onto your workspace, and we'll come on over and change the width and the height here in the properties. So if it comes in as a square and I change the width, that will also change the height because those proportions are locked. If you want to change the height and not change the width, you then have to unlock the proportions so you can just change your width without having to change your height. So we're going to do 2 of those, and one will be a 4 by 4 and one will be 4 by 7. Okay, so we're just going to pop those. Those will just go right on top of each other like that. And let me just change the color there so you guys can see how they're going to line up. So we have those lined up like that. Now, our pumpkins are obviously way too big to fit on this little space. So we can take our pumpkins, stack them back up, and reduce those down to the size that you'd like them to be to fit onto your cutting piece, onto your little pocket. I'm going to leave mine big though, because I want you guys to see when they come out how they cut and everything. So we're going to leave those big for right now. Now, when you do if you're doing like I did, if you want to do little sewing holes along your rectangles, all you have to do then is add another shape. So we just create a circle shape, and we'll change that to be, you need it to be like an 1/8 of an inch. So you just do 0.125 on your circle, and your width and your height. You want to make sure that that's proportions are locked there. And we'll do 0.125. And we just need to have a number of these along the edge of the rectangle and the edge of your square. So that way you can take these 2 edges and stitch them together. So I like to kind of get 3 or 4 of them grouped together like so. And then I'll just take those 3 and we'll align those so that they line up to the center of each other like that. And then I just do a copy and paste again, Control Copy, Control V, and I'll bring those up and we'll line all those together again and just align to the center. Okay, and I need just like one more up top here. And if you're worried about getting them the same exact proportion from each other, we'll grab all of them again, and we can group them together, of course, to make it easy. And just come on over to your spacing and go ahead and do those, lining those up in the center. So we'll group those together, and I'll copy it so that I can put it onto the other side of my rectangle here. I'm missing one. Get everything all together here. Here we go. Okay. Now I have those on either side, and you can again align the tops of both of these groups. So we're going to make sure that this is all grouped together, and you can take both sets of your dots there and align them by the top. So you come back down to your spacing of your objects and align those to the top of each other. And then we just need one of these along the bottom. And we'll just, again, use our rotation device, rotate that 90 degrees. And then you can put that right on the bottom. Probably need to reduce that down by 1 or 2 of these. So you just ungroup and reduce. And then the same as you did the pumpkin face in the pumpkin itself, we will take our dots and delete them from your rectangle. Does that make sense? Everyone with me? Here we go. And then you just put that right in there and you're ready to go. You just grab those, you grab your circles all together, and you can just delete those out of the pink square there by going back down to your weld pieces, remove the front objects. And now you have, oh, I guess I was missing some. Let me see, what was I missing? Let's group all those together. Nobody runs away this time. And we'll put those on both the back piece as well as the front piece. Now, if you want to make sure everything's lined up, which you should, we should want to make sure everything's lined up. Let's grab everything and grab all 4 of those layers, and we'll line that up in the center. And then grab these, our little dots. We'll line those up to center of each other. Yeah. All right. So that's how we're going to do those. Now we'll just take the first fuchsia layer and a layer of the dots, come on down here and remove those from the front. Our fuchsia dot is placed, and we'll do the same thing down here. Like that moved on me just a little bit. And we'll just take this, and again, we'll just remove that from there. Now, I would be a little bit more cautious. As you can see, I want to make sure everything's going to line up okay. And it's a little bit off, but I'm just going to leave it like that for right now so we can see how it's going to come out. I'm not leaving my pumpkins big, so you guys can see them cutting and everything on the machine. So let's go ahead and send this design over to our mat. My little pumpkins here, they're off the mat, so let's get those back on. Okay. So we're going to send those over to be cut. So we've got our pumpkins to start with. I have my 2 orange pumpkins and 1 golden pumpkin. Now, if I wanted to have these lined up next to each other, I just need to come back to my design here and have one lined up here and the other guy lined up right here. Again, I'll put that pumpkin there, my brown piece there. It doesn't matter that they're all stacked on top of each other, because when you send your design, you say, do all artwork and move each color layer to the origin point. So when you say send, it will separate all those layers into their own mat to be cut. Okay, so we'll start with this golden one. Now, before we cut it, I want to talk to you about how to prepare your materials. If you're using a stiff felt, you can just cut your stiff felt. An example of stiff felt is this Cricut felt packaging. It's stiff, but it still isn't quite stiff enough, as stiff as I like it to be when I'm cutting with it. So you may have to add some heat and bond to the back of it. So this is a thicker felt, but it's flimsier. It's not as stiff. It doesn't have like a sizing material in it that stiffens that up. So what you're going to do is you're adding we're going to add the heat and bond to the back of our felt. So I've got, if we can go to my overhead camera, I'll kind of walk us through that process. So I have an easy press here, and that's what I'll use. Now you can use a home iron if you want. You don't have to use your easy press. I like my easy press. It's easy. And I just can do it on, this is on 315 degrees, and it'll just take a second to heat up. And then you can get heat and bond either in a package or by the yard. If your store now has fabric, you can buy your heat and bond by the yard. It has an adhesive side and a paper side. So all we have to do is cut a little piece of our heat and bond about the size of our pumpkins. And the first piece we do is we will use the side with the shiny side here. There's a shiny side and a paper side. We'll use the shiny side and adhere it down to our felt piece. So when I put my felt on my mat, it's going to cut this little corner first. So I'll just heat and bond that right onto that corner, just like that. And I leave a little extra space around the edge where the felt is, so it doesn't get too, oops, let me grab my pad here, so it doesn't stick onto my table. So we'll just put that on there, and I'll do the same with the orange felt here. We'll put that down. So we're going to put that in that corner. And you can see where I did mine before. What that does is it just makes it a little bit stiffer, and it helps your material to cut through. So while our machine is heating up here, I want to talk about using a different blade. So for the felt, you're going to use your blue blade, not your red tip blade. So your machine came with this little package of different blades, and we're going to go ahead and pull out the blue one. Now I'm just going to remove my whole compartment, if you will, from my machine, and you can see I have a little blade there. When I push the end, my blade tips up. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit here. Let's see if I can get that to focus in for you guys. Okay, so when I push this tip here, my blade pulls out. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this blade out of the carrier here, and you'll notice that will just pop right out for you. Okay, so that comes out, and you want to put your red cover back on this one. This is my red one. So I'm going to put my red cover back onto here. And then I'm going to grab my blue tip and I'm going to just remove that tip from my blade. And we'll put this right in there. So I'll push the end here and we'll drop that right in like that. Now I have the blue tip in here. Now, when you're trying to figure out how much tip you need to have out, what you can do is take your material and hold it against the blade to decide if it's going to cut deep enough. So if I have my material next to my blade and I can kind of feel the tip of my blade through alongside my material there, I know it's going to cut deep enough and I can just barely feel it. If I want to make my blade go out a little bit deeper, you can just twist this, right, this piece here, and it'll bring this piece here, twist it, and it brings it out, and then your gold piece there locks it. Now when I lay that against my felt, I can feel it coming out a little bit more. And I can feel it a little bit rougher on my finger. So I know I've got that out deep enough. Kind of cool. I always like to see how other people work with their machines and maybe do different things with it. So I'll put that back in my machine so we're ready to go. And then now my my Easy Press has given me all the heat I need. I'm going to just put this right on here and we'll heat that right up. And it really only takes about like 8 seconds. You want to go ahead and leave the paper on your material. You don't take the paper off until you've cut it. So you're going to leave that right on there. And I'll do the same with this piece. Put this one down like that. If you want to, you can put a cloth between your heat. Like if you're using your home iron, you want to use your home iron with no heat, no steam, sorry, no steam, and have that press right onto your material like that. Once you've pressed it down, it's stuck on my material. It's not going to come off, and my material is much thicker with that on there. Then we're just going to grab our mat, and with the mat, we're going to go ahead and put our material in that bottom left corner. And this is where we can start to cut. Now, I know my pumpkin's going to cut right here. If I wanted to do a test, I would maybe do a test over here or move my pumpkin over on the screen. Let's see if I can move this pumpkin on the screen. I'm not sure if I can do that. Let's just check. So if I want to move my pumpkin over here, and then I can run a test cut right here. So I'll just make sure that it goes over 7 inches. I've got plenty of room. I can do that there. Now we'll go ahead and make sure we're all set up with it. So you can change your blade. So I'm just using the Siser standard blade, and my cut settings I want to have it on are the 13 speed. So over here I can just change my speed to 13, and I'll change my force to 145. And then if I want to, I can do a test cut. So let me stop share here. To do a test cut, we're going to grab our material and we'll put our material in our machine. You want to come back to the front camera? Yeah. So we'll put our material into our machine, and make sure I've got it open so I can do it. Okay. We're going to put our material in. Now, when you're loading your material into the machine, just remember that this corner you want right underneath your blade. So when I'm going to put my material in my machine, I want to make sure that I bring it back far enough so my blade tip is right in that corner there. And I've got plenty of room lined up. Then I just push my lever and it will hold it in place. Now, I can do my cut, so you can do your cut settings on your machine if you want, or you can do it on the software. So I can change my cut settings to a speed of 13 and a force of 145. And then I'm going to do a test cut. All right, so gotta get that up there, 145. Okay, so oops. All right, it goes up really quickly. All right. And then I can just do my test cut, which is a little t-shirt on the corner of my machine. And I'm just gonna do my test cut on it. Now the t-shirt is really teeny tiny. So you do want to make you know, just keep in mind that when you're cutting felt and you're cutting small pieces, you want to make sure it cuts it nice and smoothly. And I've got my little t-shirt all cut here. Kind of hard to see, but it did a nice cut. So I'm just going to come on back and bring my my material back onto my machine here, which I've got positioned right. The nice thing I think about the Siser machines is the flexibility you have to put your material into your machine and get everything placed the way that you want it to be. So we're going to go ahead and lock that in place and send our design over to cut on our machine. Now, when you're cutting felt, you want to make sure it's going to stick to your machines, I mean, to your mat here. So I want to make sure that that's going to stick. And I'm just going to use my force and send it on over. Big, way bigger than I thought it was going to be. But so we've got it cut. Just remove my material here. I forgot I kept this so big. But now you can see how that comes out just like that. And then when you're ready, you've got your napkin piece to go. Let's do our other pumpkins. Put that. That's really stuck on there. Good, which is good. You want your material to stay there. So let's just take that, and that's okay if that pattern, that backing comes off there. That's fine. It does not hurt anything. I feel like I need to put a little bit more of the backing on this piece, given how big those other pumpkins were. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this to the other side here, and just make sure I have enough on here. Okay, what's that old saying? Measure twice, cut once. All right, we got that on there, and then we'll just put that right on our mat here. We know we have our settings, and this is a fun, the little pumpkins and everything, these are really fun and easy to make. You can put these all around the table. You can decorate a placemat with the pumpkins like this. You can decorate place cards if you wanted to. Instead of cutting out a face, you could cut out your you could cut out a name. It's just there's so many fun things you can do. And especially once you learn how to cut out of felt, you can do so many different things. Okay, I've got that back. We're going to send the orange pumpkins over to my cutter with a force of 145 and a speed of 13. Now that did go a little bit fast, so I'm going to slow my speed down to 12. And we're going to send that on over and see how that cuts. And then we'll come back over and I'll show you how to just adhere that to your backing piece. Did anybody have any questions as we were going through? I know it was kind of a lot of information that we sent over about everything. So if you had any questions, please do feel free to drop them in the Q&A, either about working with felt or about using the Leonardo Design Studio, anything like that. If you have questions. Okay, and then we'll come back on over and we will peel that off. So here's my pumpkins. Also, another fun thing, think about like during Valentine's, you could do little Valentine's cards like this, even seat covers. If you do the back of your seat and you want to put somebody's name on it, you can certainly do that. with a cute little seat cover. I just love how clean this cuts, whether you're doing a small cut like this size or you're doing a larger cut like I did here, just to give us the show. So now all I have to do is take my pumpkins and we're just going to adhere those to your napkin holder. So I've got it just big size so I can show you. We'll just put it down here. You can put butcher paper or a linen cloth over this if you wanted to. I've got my Easy Press it's at 315. I think you could go down to like 275 and still get a nice press. And again, it only takes about 5 seconds to do that, and it will hold it in place for you. Especially since we're doing multiple layers, you can just do, your first press can be much lighter. Now you can also place these on using, if you didn't want to use your adhesive on the back, you can use freezer paper on the back to give you the stiffness, and then you could just use a hot glue gun and glue gun it on, or anything like that. Okay, one more. And then I just did a blanket stitch on the side of mine to hold it together. If you sew, you can just sew it up. This is also, if you have young kids, letting them do the stitching is always a fun thing. But there we go. There's your pumpkin design for your silverware holder. However you want to use that. Again, you could just use this as a placemat. You could put your silverware on this, a napkin on this. You could decorate a napkin with this, all kinds of fun things that you can do. Now, in the last few minutes, I do want to talk about other types of table decorations that you can embellish. So one of the things I like to do are these charger plates with vinyl. I've had these for about, I want to say about 5 years. I've had these charger plates, and it's funny, everybody who comes for Thanksgiving at different times will get kind of a different setting. But this is how I place the decorations on my table. And it's fun for the kids to do too, because then they get to use them as nameplates and set them out. And then if you're not a regular at Thanksgiving, then you get to take your charger plate home. So when you're working with something like this, you can choose between a lot of different vinyls to work with. And these are called, Siser called their vinyls pressure sensitive vinyls. So that means they adhere to the surface with pressure as opposed to heat. Your heat transfer vinyl would adhere with heat. Now you could also just use heat transfer vinyl for this design if you didn't want to use the felt. Just another little idea for you. But if you're doing vinyl, there's a few different types of vinyl that you can use. So there's the heat transfer vinyl, and this type of vinyl is good for cloth if you're doing napkins or fabric placemats or a table runner. You might want to grab your heat transfer vinyl, but then you do need to have some sort of heat to apply that to. And you can do glitter, you can do solid colors, all kinds of different things. And then if you want to do something on like plastic or glass, like if you want to give everybody a glass with their name on it, you can use the pressure sensitive vinyl. Now I have this because it's in the rolls, but you can use Cricut vinyl, Siser vinyl, Make Market vinyl in any of your cutting machines. The thing I want to point out is you need to think about if you want to use removable vinyl or permanent vinyl. And the key difference is your removable vinyl comes off and it doesn't leave any residue or anything like that. So if you're doing this, and let's say you want to do a pumpkin for Thanksgiving or Halloween, you want to do snowflakes for Christmas time, maybe you want to highlight a sport or a special thing, you could do something like this. If you're doing something that is seasonal and you're like, oh, I want to keep my charger, but just change my design, then you might want to choose the removable vinyl. But if you want to keep it for years and years and years, if you want to be able to put it in the dishwasher, then you want to use the instead. And for both types of vinyl, you need to use transfer tape. And basically what the transfer tape does is it allows you to pick up the design you've cut out and it holds everything together. So when you cut out a design like this and you've changed a name and you've got this is one piece and this is one piece and you want to transfer it and move it together, that's when you need to use your standard grip transfer tape. Now, there is just another caveat kind of vinyl. You might have either a chalkboard vinyl or a glitter vinyl, which has a texture to it. Then you need to have a strong grip transfer tape. When you're working with glitter, you always want to use a strong grip transfer tape, and that's so that it will pick up that textured material and apply it down. You don't need strong grip transfer tape for just your average everyday smooth type of transfers. And if you want to get really fun, this, let's see, I'm going to put a little here so you can see this. This was done, now it looks like it was etched with glass etching, but I actually used frosted permanent vinyl on this design. And this was one of my son's Christmas presents, and he's had this, I think this was like 3 years ago. So he's used this quite a bit, and we put it through the washing machine and everything. Can you see that? So it looks like it's been etched on there, but it's actually just a frosted permanent vinyl. So that's gone on there, and that's all it is. Now, again, both of these cups are used on a regular basis in our house. They go through the dishwasher just fine. They use hot and cold. If you are doing something that's going to be used like that, you want to use your permanent vinyl. If you're using something that, let's say you're doing wine glasses and you want to use the wine glasses with everybody's name on it instead of a charger plate, then you would use the removable vinyl instead of the permanent vinyl. All right, so we have a couple minutes. I've left time for any Q&As that anybody has. If you'd like to drop those into the chat, you certainly may, and we can answer those live for you. If you have questions after the workshop that pop in your mind, you can always reach out to me on Instagram at kesley.365, and I'd be happy to answer those for you. If there's anything that you were hoping to see tonight that we didn't go over, I'd be happy to show that too. If you want me to go back into the Leonardo studio and show anything there, I can certainly, we can go back and do that as well. All right. I guess nobody had any questions. That's amazing. Well, when you guys create with something, whether you're doing a charger or some cute little table, your silverware holder, or just some table decorations, a door hanger, I'd love to see it. Michael's would love to see it. So if you'll tag us in any of your social media posts, Learn with Michael's, we'd love to see it. And I hope that you guys will join us for other classes in the future. We have some fun classes coming up. I know I have a t-shirt class for quick Halloween projects too, so that'll be fun. We're in that Halloween mode, aren't we? All right. Well, Rich, I guess that's everything.
All righty. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.